Hello and welcome everyone to CSN. I'm Kevin Cash, and joined with me, as always, our resident numismatist, Corey Cady. Corey, congratulations. We got an email this week about your 20th year here at CSN.
Thank you. Thank you.
And in honor of that, we put together an amazing opportunity here. Actually, Corey really worked hard on this one. He's done a great job here to put together the potential to get 4 Carson City Morgan dollars. Now we have the 1882 through 84, and that's at just $16.95. The 1885 you can get individually at $13.95, and we'll talk about that a little bit on those price points there.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Again here, Carson City uncirculated Morgan dollars, without a doubt, as you know, the most sought after of all of the Morgan dollars ever produced. The Carson City Mint accounts for less than 2% of the total mintage of all the Morgan dollars ever produced. So very small amount of these, and that's basically the main reason why these are always the most sought after of the 5 mints. Go back to 1878, Kevin, the first year of issue, the mint issued the Morgan dollars at 3 mints, at Carson City, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. And of course, with the Carson City, I always like to point out that this is the Wild West. I mean, it really conjures up images of the Wild West. And when you consider the Comstock load in Nevada is kind of responsible entirely for the U.S. Mint to start striking the Morgan dollars in general. The Bland-Allison Act is what invoked the U.S. Mint to start producing silver dollars again. Back then, being a circulated coin, people didn't really like having a large silver dollar like this to carry around in their pocket. You know, when we had small $1 gold pieces, and even back then they were using, you know, pinches of gold dust in everyday commerce. But with all of the silver they were pulling out of the mountains in Nevada, out of the Comstock lode, the miners were putting pressure on the government to do something with the silver. Now, all of that silver coming out of the mountains, of course, led to the price of silver tanking. So when the Mint finally started producing coins again in 1878, they were actually striking 2 million Morgan dollars per month.
Hard to believe.
2 million, and most of those were going into the U.S. Treasury hoard. So that was allowing the U.S. Mint to control the price of silver, put a new silver dollar into circulation, and appease the miners and the West all of that money and silver that was being obtained from the mountains there. So that also, of course, led to the U.S. Mint creating the Carson City Mint. That branch mint, San Francisco wasn't too far away, but with all the gold and silver coming out of the Comstock lode, it only made sense for a branch mint to be right there, right where all the action was taking place.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned just 2% of all the Morgans produced. Now, that was 670 million Morgans in total that were produced.
Entirety, over the entire...
Out of all the mints and all the years, and just a very, very small sliver, a very small fraction of those come from Carson City. So we have had recently the 1880 Carson City GSA Morgan on the show. So those of you that did yourself a favor and picked that up, you have an opportunity here to add to that. If this is your first Carson City opportunity to get 1882, 83, and 84 at just $16.95. It's an absolute steal, a bargain that will not last long. You're going to need to pick up the phone and call now. And if you can also comfortably afford that 1885 at $13.95, it will really benefit your collection. And Corey, let's talk about that 1885 Carson City.
Yeah, 1885, it is in fact the lowest minted Carson City coin ever produced. Now, Morgan dollar, I should say. Only 228,000 total coins were minted at Carson City in 1885 on the Morgan dollar. So if you consider today, on the Silver Eagles, over the past 15, 16 years, on average, they're producing nearly 30 million Silver Eagles per year. Now, of course, none of those have been melted.
Right.
If you consider with the total mintage of all the Morgan dollars, 1878 to 1904, and then again in 1921, 670 million total coins were minted. And then you get to the World War I, when we melted 270 million of those. Nearly half of the entire issue was melted to fund the war effort in World War I. Now, with the Carson City GSA holder here, this is always one of the most sought after Morgan dollars by collectors around the world.
Absolutely.
And the main reason for that, we'll just zoom in, you can see uncirculated silver dollar. These are truly uncirculated Morgan dollars that sat in the U.S. Mint's vaults for 90 to 100 years, where they were then sold off starting in 1969 up until right around 1974 by the General Service Administration. Now, what the General Service Administration is, it's still around today.
That's right.
They've got a yearly budget of around $26 billion a year, and they primarily handle U.S.-owned government buildings and the government fleet of vehicles. And back then, they were charged with the responsibility of distributing these coins by mail-in auction. So they had a starting bid price, depending on the year and the condition, anywhere from $30 to $50. And when you consider at the time, silver was under $2 per ounce. Of course, as you know today, over $30 an ounce. And the Morgan dollar, incredibly sought after with Carson City, of course, only 13 years they were produced.
That's right.
1878 to 1885, and then the mint closed. They did not produce any coins in 1886, 87, or 88, and then they began producing coins again in 1889, and ultimately the mint ceased operations in 1893.
Yeah, and you said it, Corey. You have the opportunity here to pick up 4 of the 13 years that they were issued out of the Carson City Mint. Again, the low percentage, when you compare these to all the other mints, just 2% made at Carson City. These are in, now, back in the 1880s, they weren't put in any sort of government packaging, but this is the original, so to speak, government packaging. So
if I could interrupt you really quick, I'll just point out,
sure,
these are in fact the only Morgan dollars the U.S. Mint has ever put into a hard plastic holder like this.
Great point.
From the GSA hoard. So it's the only time. I mean, of course, as you know, today we offer the mint sets, we offer the proof silver eagles. There's lots of things that are put into a hard plastic holder, at the very least with a box. But at the time, and still to this day, except for the modern issue coins, was the only time, the first time the U.S. Mint had ever put a Morgan dollar into a hard plastic holder.
Yeah, and those of you that are picking up the phone or getting online right now at csnmint.com and making sure to put these in your collection are getting the benefit of getting them the exact same way those that won the auctions to acquire these coins several decades ago when they were made available to the public. They're the exact same packaging, the exact same outer box, the exact same certificates of authenticities that are placed inside. You know, we see these coins actually graded and certified, and they'll leave them in this original GSA packaging sometimes and put the grade right on the original government service agency packaging. So it's a big deal to have these in that.
And to touch on that, that's because of pressure from collectors. The thing with these, again, they are truly uncirculated Morgan dollars that were never put into circulation, but because they tend to be such high quality coins, with the popularity of grading over the last 40 years, many of these coins have been taken out of this original packaging to submit for certification, where they would then be put into a slab into one of the Tier 1 grading services holders. So these days, they're very difficult to find still in this original packaging. And yes, more often than not, people will pay that extra fee to have them stay in that original holder, which just lends to the overall pedigree of the coin. So folks, this is an opportunity you're not going to see here on this show very often. I know you may have seen some of these elsewhere at a much higher price. That 1885, again, only 228,000 total coins were ever minted, period. And with the mint at one point in 1918 melting nearly half of the entire allotment, this is an opportunity to get your hands on a piece of American history, truly uncirculated Morgan dollars from the most sought after of the 5 mints, Carson City. Folks, pick up the phone now, call, grab as many as you could comfortably afford.